Welcome to Talk Tickers. Today, we're breaking down DTE Energy's fourth quarter 2025 earnings call, which took place on February 17th, 2026. We're going to get into the key numbers, unpack what's going on with their AI-driven growth story, and then give you our analyst take on what to watch for.
All right, let's dive right into the headline number you need to know. For the quarter, DTE reported operating earnings per share of $1.65. And that represents a really clean beat against what analysts were expecting, which was hovering around $1.53. So a very strong finish to the year. So yeah, DTE Q4, the headline beat. The big takeaway is that the company ended its fiscal year on a really strong note, exceeding expectations and setting a pretty confident tone for 2026.
Now, if you zoom out to the full year 2025, you can see the story holds up. Operating EPS came in at $7.36. That's up from $6.83 back in 2024. And this was all supported by over $4.3 billion in capital investments and some really significant reliability improvements. The AI data center story. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting, because the numbers are only part of it. What's really got Wall Street buzzing is the story management is building around AI-driven electricity demand.
The centerpiece of all this is a massive 1.4 gigawatt data center agreement with Oracle. But here's the brilliant part. It's how they structured it. Oracle, not the existing customers, is covering the cost. This is a total game changer, right? It lets them chase these huge growth projects without the usual political heat. In fact, they're saying this deal is going to save their current customers $300 million a year.
And this just brilliantly illustrates their momentum. The CEO, Joi Harris, is already teasing the next major deal. She says they expect to finalize terms in the coming weeks. I mean, wow, that's a huge signal to the market.
All right, guidance and management's focus. Let's move on and see how this all builds into their guidance for the year ahead.
So for 2026, the company is guiding for operating EPS to be between $7.59 and $7.73. And management was not shy on the call. They repeatedly expressed confidence in hitting the high end of that range.
Of course, they know they can't just talk about flashy growth. They're reinforcing the whole story with a major focus on execution. They highlighted this 4-point plan to dramatically improve grid reliability, which is absolutely crucial to justify all that capital spending.
The market's muted reaction. Okay, so you've got a strong report, this really bullish narrative. You'd think the stock would have shot up, right? Well, despite all that, the stock's reaction on the day of the call, it tells a very different story.
After an initial pop, it was up around 2.5% before the market opened. The gains just faded all day long. By the end of trading, the stock had given it all back and closed near flat. A total head-scratcher.
And so you get to this crucial point, this disconnect. You have management pushing a fantastic long-term story of execution and growth. But the market? Well, the market seemed to say, yeah, that's great, but we want confirmation of the next catalyst, and we want it now.
The next call, our take. So this brings us to our analysis of DTE. What should you be watching for, and how are we rating the stock? Let's get into it.
All right, after running the numbers and listening to the call, we are assigning DTE an outperform rating.
And here's why. We think the market's impatience has created a really attractive entry point. First, that next data center deal seems imminent, a huge near-term catalyst. Second, the Oracle deal structure is basically a de-risked, regulator-approved blueprint for future AI deals. And most importantly, the market's obsession with the timing of the next deal is missing the bigger picture. The current growth guidance doesn't even fully bake in the 3+ gigawatts of data center load they're already discussing.
So this leaves us with the key question that is likely going to drive the next major move in the stock. Will DTE announce that next big deal before its Q1 earnings call? That's what we'll all be watching for.
And a final reminder. This presentation is for informational purposes only. This is not financial advice.